Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Alyx.
Hello, I'm Feather, and it's been a while.
I can't even remember the last one you've been on. It has been a bit.
It's been quite a few. Yeah, I've been very busy.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
I mean, we've all been very busy.
Yeah, we've all been very busy. Brandon has made us incredibly busy.
Oh my goodness. Yup. Also joining us is David.
Hi, I am Windrunner on the forums, and I'm happy to be back on Shardcast after our previously scheduled content was upended.
Yeah, we were going to do a Herald's Desolation episode, and that was going to be like, we were going to record it that first weekend of March, and then it's like, well, we're not doing that.
No, we're not.
No, we're absolutely not. Also joining us on the face of the sun is Marvin. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, I'm Paleo, and I was really worried about getting this background finished because I actually rendered it out in After Effects and it took forever. But yeah, it thankfully finished in time.
Yeah, I don't know how to use After Effects, so you get the Cosmere Star background. I'm on a green screen too now, Paleo. And also we have Veronica.
Hey, I am Cheyenne on the forums and Discord. Very excited for this episode.
Yes, this one's the spicy one. And lastly, we have Ala.
Hello, I'm Rasarr, and I am also really excited to be on this one.
Yes, and I am Chaos, and oh boy, so we're going to talk about Secret Project spoilers. Oh, we're aware that there's this Stormlight Prologue, and we are also extremely excited about that.
Yep.
But, we had to get through the Secret Project 3 stuff, and Secret Project 4 is really excited. We will get to the Stormlight 5 Prologue very soon. It's not our fault that Brandon keeps, putting out multiple things per week, and we can't, with our weekly cadence, we can't even get it done quickly. So we'll get there, okay? But there's a lot to talk about with Secret Project 4. So there's going to be Secret Project 4 spoilers. There might be we might mention titles of previous secret projects or something. I don't know. I don't think a lot, but probably.
And obviously huge Cosmere spoilers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my, yes. Very big Cosmere spoilers. Yes. But before we get into that, let's talk about some news. As of recording, the Kickstarter's done, so we're behind. But the Kickstarter raised over $41 million, so that is a lot of money. And Brandon said that a good quarter of that is just shipping. So they don't even get to keep any of it. It's literally that is included in there. So, oof.
Yeah. Also, it's over double the previous highest Kickstarter. Which
Yep. Over double.
Also crazy.
Yep. It sure is. And we have the artist for Secret Project 4 is Renata Souza. That's right.
She's Brazilian. Which
fun.
Is super interesting.
Oh, and she did this cool Spencer piece. Oh, yeah, I'll have to definitely put that on screen. That's really tight. Very cool. And there will be some new swag box merch for the swag stuff. There'll be a Nightblood letter opener, which is funny because Jess always uses a sword letter opener. We have a thing there, and she's like, "Oh, now I'll have a second one." So there we go. It'll be Nightblood. Excellent. Hack that a spam mail there, and there will be
destroy evil.
Collectible Cosmere character pins. Did I get that right?
I think so.
Something like that.
CCCPs, of course.
I didn't watch the first hour of the stream, actually, so I actually have no idea.
Wow.
I've been busy, okay. And there will be at least one t-shirt, so that's what we're going to do.
And we know we'll get more of those pins with future Kickstarters, for Radiance, etc. Because there are so many Cosmere characters that you can't even get through all the main characters.
Hey, Dragonwood Shop, I need a pin case that's really nice. I need a really nice pin case because I have a lot of pins now from the Way of Kings Kickstarter, from the previous the signings. I have a lot of Cosmere related pins, and I do really like them. So get on that.
They're creating their own market right there. I think they said too about the pins that they're gonna come with the books too. So if you end up with just a book only order, you'll get 4 of them, and they will make a full set available to purchase if you want all of them just individually. But you probably won't be able to buy just the 8 that you're missing. They're only gonna be able to sell it as a whole package deal, kind of like the Way of Kings Kickstarter. So you'll end up with 4 extras if you do that. But
yeah, that's fine. Give it to a friend or something.
Yeah.
They did say that all those pins will be new designs. So you're not gonna get like the chibi characters from the prior Kickstarter or anything
but
like that.
they are in that style, if I'm not mistaken.
In the Kickstarter style?
Or like,
Cool. Like the chibi Kickstarter style. I mean, they showed a couple of options of like designs that already exist that these might be similar to.
Cool. Well, let's get on talking about Secret Project 4, which is called The Sunlit Man. But before we get into that, I have a bit of a rant, okay? So they sent out this by just blasting in the title that it's Stormlight adjacent, just like immediately. And so Alyx, I you know me. How much do I personally care about spoilers, Alyx? You've known me a long time, David. You've known me a long time. What do you two think of how much I personally care about spoilers?
I feel like for those playing along at home, the question is not how much Eric cares about spoilers, but rather how much Eric desecrates spoilers constantly by reading the ends of books out of order.
No, I would never.
Searching manuscripts for important terms.
I would never control F void binding in Rhythm of War. That would be silly.
Eric is the worst at spoilers ever. So if he's upset about a spoiler thing, you know it has to be bad because he cares the least.
I do not care. And first of all, I don't think any of these titles are spoilers in any way. I don't know why we're doing any of this Secret Project nonsense. I gotta be perfectly honest. Like, The Sunlit Man, that's not a spoiler. It's just a name. Like, none of these names are things I would find spoilers. But
I think the covers have more connection to the
Yes, absolutely.
Like, you can absolutely. But
I don't care about spoilers. I want the blurb, and the blurb makes me a lot more excited to read them. But you might recall Brandon's initial announcement that he wanted people to go into books blind and give them an option to go in blind to the book, right? We all remember that that's what he said. And yes, he is still giving giant spoiler streams and sample chapters for the people who don't want to go in blind, but he was very clear that he wanted people to be able to go in blind. So I am just personally a bit baffled that I thought the intent was to allow people to open a book and not know anything about it. But in this case, when you put spoilers, and I would say the Stormlight adjacent part is much more of a spoiler than the actual titles for any of these books, any of the books. That is the biggest thing that I was even looking forward for people to see about these books was what was happening in this and what's going on with the Cosmere connections, that I'm just a bit baffled, because if it's in the title, it can't be optional for the people who you wanted to go in blind. So I just think this is a little inconsistent is all. That's all.
Yeah, and like, I'd get the title thing if the titles were like Aether of Night, The Silence Divine.
Yeah, right, sure. Yeah, exactly.
But none of these are that.
They're new things. So it's just like, they're totally new things. Whatever.
I understand it. I was talking with Jess about this, though, and we decided that I think that there is a little something where there's an edge case where somebody who has not read Stormlight could read these and they just wouldn't get as much out of it, or they would just kind of end up being a little confused in a way that the other two I don't think.
Sure, but couldn't you have put that below the giant spaces and just said, hey, the title is Sunlit Man. Now we're in kind of spoiler mode. You might want to read some Stormlight about this.
But they're selling a product. And so I think it's good people know that, like, you know, if you're spending all your money because you're like, I'm going to do this Kickstarter, and you buy, like, obviously libraries exist and stuff, but like you buy this and then you're like, oh shoot, I have to read at least one other book before I read this to really understand what's going on.
We should talk about the Cosmere-ness of this. Yeah, it just occurred to me like, hey, you read Stormlight, you'll want to buy this book. Please give money to the Kickstarter, and that's how it came across to me.
And definitely because they also sent out an email or an update on the Way of Kings Leatherbound.
It all counts. Yeah,
that has been fulfilled for almost a year now. So that miffed me a little bit. That's not the greatest, maybe, because if people want to avoid these projects at all costs and did spec the Kickstarter, they would also have been, it's Stormlight related. I guess I know that now.
It's just making it not optional to not want to know that information. And I thought that was sort of one of the core premises. And I saw a Reddit thread where people are just being so entitled. I'm like, do you not remember the March 1st announcement? Do you not remember that this is what Brandon said? I don't know.
Yeah. And it's a little galling after spending a lot of time trying to be very good about spoilers for people and making sure that we're setting up this
and running a community to make sure that people aren't spoiled. Yeah, right, exactly. So I just think it's a little inconsistent is all. And I think that is perfectly reasonable in my opinion. I do get the idea that yes, you do probably want to know some Stormlight stuff because it's a character from I mean, spoilers. It's Sigzil, man. How crazy is that? It's amazing. It's grizzled, salty Sigzil with the restriction that Hoyt had to not fight. How amazing is that? It's so cool. It's so cool. So. I mean, that's like half the fun. I mean, you do get the Stormlight stuff pretty quick, but no one can get the blind experience of noting the Stormlight connection. Like, it is just impossible if you do it this way.
Yeah, and I do think it points people towards a conclusion. Like, the community Sigzil was like a candidate that people have been floating for a while, and then Brandon said it's Stormlight related,
and then people were like, yes,
and people were like immediately it's Sigzil, and like that wasn't a foregone conclusion, but they did happen to be right.
Yeah. Right. And so I baited this book, so I've read the whole book, but like it was a fun experience to discover it was Sigzil, and I feel like you just get it a lot faster if you know these things in advance. Like, we didn't even know that there was like, it's about a previous character. Like, we just had no clue at all. So there is a balance to these things. But.
I was gonna say, I think in some way this is a little bit of like a hypothetical for us on the cast, because clearly we're not going in blind. We have all read the preview chapter.
Right, yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of sympathy for those who thought they could go in more blind than they were actually able to because of this reveal.
That Brandon wanted them to be able to do this.
Who knows what's going to happen with readers years down the line who are discovering the Cosmere and had no idea this ever happened.
Yeah, right.
And actually get that experience.
Yep. So man, there's so much to talk about with Sunlit Man, but maybe we should do a summary before we, go press on all the gas. I don't expect this to be a short episode. That's for sure. There's so much to talk about.
Probably not.
Let's do a quick summary. Well, quick. Okay. It's 10 chapters. It's 10 entire chapters. The reading was 2 hours long on Brandon's YouTube. It's not exactly quick, but
I will try to summarize it in less than 2 hours.
Oh, great, cool.
Good goal.
I'll just embed Brandon's video into the entire thing. I'm sure they'll love it. No, I would never do that.
I'm just gonna sit here silently and watch it.
we'll just a stream reaction. Yeah.
Let me go get some popcorn beforehand.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the Sunlit Man. So our hero, Sigzil, who goes by Nomad in this book, he wakes up on another planet. He's been traveling for a while using this method called skipping that just kind of leads him to random planets in the Cosmere.
yeah. I mean, that's exactly what is happening, yes.
So he wakes up after another skip to find out that he is on a planet where plants are rapidly growing. There are people all around him, and he is currently being arrested. So, fun times. So other prisoners around him are being chained to the ground by the group of people who are led by those Ember Men, who are people who have parts of their chests are burned out, and they have embers embedded where their hearts should be.
They seem
which
nice.
Gives them, they are very friendly, and they try to punch Nomad into submission, which doesn't quite work because he's also enhanced by investiture. So they have a bit of a scuffle, but Nomad is unable to fight people. And he also has this voice in his head called ALX, or auxiliary. And ALX is the one who is responsible for skipping him, like the one who presses the jump button.
Right.
And also for manipulating Nomad's connection. But right now, ALX doesn't have enough investiture to connect him to the planet, so nobody knows what's going on and nobody understands each other. But they really want to kill Nomad just right away. So they chain him down to the ground, and this is where Nomad discovers that the planet they're on, the sun there is extremely deadly and highly invested. So the plants are growing very fast, but the moment the sun rises fully, everything burns to the ground. Nomad decides he doesn't actually want to die today. He tears the chains out of the ground. He summons ALX, who is kind of like a spren into the shape of a chain, hooks it on a hover bike that one of the Embermen is driving, and off they go into the shadow. So after a very painful ride, Nomad and his unintentional ride arrive at this floating city that is also traveling along the planet to escape the sun. Nomad is dragged on the surface, where he meets the leader of this city, a man who has glowing eyes like the Ember people, but whose chest isn't burned out. So the glowing eyes man examines him, and he tries to do something to Nomad's face, but nothing happens, to everyone's confusion.
That's so funny. Like, everyone's just so confused.
And then one of the guys who inadvertently dragged Nomad here is trying to tell the glowing eyes man something, and ALX manages to catch the words someone who escaped the sun, which is apparently a big deal, and one that the glowing eyes man is really unhappy about, because he ends up dragging Nomad into a fighting arena. And meanwhile, while this is happening, the city is breaking apart, because it turns out it's not one flying city, it's actually a bunch of flying ships that only come together to do business and move around and so forth, and then all go about their business. So yeah, this is happening in the background, and meanwhile, Nomad and a bunch of other prisoners are tossed into an arena, and 3 Ember people step out to chase them all down. So, we are doing gladiatorial games, basically. Except one side doesn't have any weapons.
Can't fight.
Nomad in particular finds himself under attack by this woman with silver hair, who was equipped with a machete and apparently ordered by the glowing eyes man to just kill him, and him in particular. Eventually, 3 people managed to survive this chase. Nomad, a man who helped him out during the chase, and another woman who was just really good at dodging. All the other prisoners are rounded up to be taken away and sacrificed to the sun, while Nomad tries to flex on the people in the arena, and the Cinder King decides to knock him out by freezing him over through bracelets that he earlier cuffed Nomad with. So after Nomad wakes up, ALX briefs him on what happened in the meanwhile. Nothing much. They were basically chained up, and now there's a podium in the center of this arena. And as Nomad watches, the woman who managed to dodge everyone is transformed into an Ember person by being stabbed in the chest with an Ember spear. So, fun times for everyone.
Great.
This is the most metal book in the Cosmere, just for the record.
It's pretty metal. It's pretty metal, yeah.
Yep, it's hard to beat Mistborn for being metal, but sorry.
Also, I love how there was the line how Sigzil's like, oh, I've seen other floating cities, but this one just looks so ramshackle, especially because everyone thought it would be Silence Divine. It's just really funny. Anyway, please continue.
But yes. So the woman is transformed into an Ember person, and they're about to do the same thing to the man who helped out Nomad. So Nomad decides that he actually cares just a little bit, and manages to summon ALX as a shard blade and just throw it as a, distraction shard blade.
They're best used.
I mean, he can't stab people with it, so...
Yeah, he throws the shard blade, and everyone is like super shocked Meanwhile, the glowing eyes man just gets $signs his eyes, and he really, really wants that shard blade.
Good luck with that.
And the way at least Nomad assumes the way the glowing eyes man wants to get it is by turning Nomad into an Emberman. So Nomad tries to goad him as much as he can without, knowing the language. And he almost manages to do it when the arena is attacked. So there's chaos, confusion. The glowing eyes man summons more of his Embermen, but then they are knocked out the same way Nomad was, through those bracelets, which they are all wearing. So Nomad realizes that the attackers have hacked into the bracers somehow. We are in the far future, just for the record.
Yeah,
that's where
we're definitely in future Cosmere stuff.
That was more definite already.
Yeah.
So the chaos occurs. The arena ship starts to break up. Nomad is pinned down and is trying to use ALX to free himself when he notices a group of people come down into the arena and try to rescue one of the Ember Woman who was chasing him earlier, who is not very cooperative rescuee. But he manages to secure the cooperation of the woman who leads the rescue effort, and she helps him out a bit. So he also helps out the men who saved him before, and together they go on the woman's ship, and they start fleeing. They are pursued. So Nomad does a bunch of acrobatics and intimidation and other tricks to defeat the pursuing ship without fighting.
And gets back. No credit for this one.
Yep, and turns out the woman just did not see any of it. But he does manage to snag the engine of one of those hover ships and snack on it, which gives ALX enough investiture to actually connect him to the planet. So he finds out that the woman whose ship he's now on is called Rebecca, and the Ember woman she rescued is Elegy, and they are sisters. Except Elegy had been kidnapped sometime before.
And they're Threnodites!
Yep. They seem to be some offshoot of Threnodites. So they return to the group that Rebecca comes from, which is called Beacon. And the people of Beacon are very frustrated with Rebecca for doing this rescue mission for Elegy, especially because her brother died during this mission. But they let her come back, and Nomad at this point is still pretending that he doesn't understand the language. So he's deliberately speaking Alefi, so they think he's just, some weirdo foreigner who is probably kind of slow, as Rebecca puts it. And so when they try to get one of the other guys, the wonderfully, beautifully named Indonesium will remember our plight eventually.
Which confirmed, even in the Threnodite language. Very awkward. I love it. I love that is an actual name. It's so good. That'll be one of the longer Coppermind article names for a character.
Yep. Yeah, so they try to get my boy Aurop to escort Nomad away, but Nomad is just, he's playing the dumb tourist and just following after Rebecca to meet with the leaders of Beacon, the Greater Good, who is actually just 3 old women. And they are debating, what's happened and what to do. And one of the Threnodite guys is insisting that Nomad is the Sunlit Man, who is some kind of legendary figure, which Rebecca disagrees in because she thinks Nomad is kind of an idiot. And meanwhile, Rebecca, she wants to use something called the Key Seal to get into some mythical underground caverns that seem to have some connection to the Skydrians, because the Key Seal has Skydrian writing on it.
Yep, Nomad's like, what are the Skydrians doing here?
Yeah. So Rebecca and some other people in the group insist that the caves exist and we can get into them. Other people are like, oh, I don't know. So they start debating this and if they can do it. And Nomad is starting to feel kind of bad about just, bursting into their private conversation. So he leaves and manages to grab himself a rifle, even though he can't use it. And then the weirdest thing happens. ALX manages to use a bit of connection to give him a Zoom call with Wit.
Pretty much.
Except, holographic Zoom call because he looks like 3D.
Yeah.
And Wit is trying to like chat with Nomad, like, "Hey, my old buddy," and Nomad is basically not having it in the least.
Oh no.
So good.
And he finally manages to bully Wit into apologizing to him for putting him in this current predicament. Because apparently everything from the skipping to Aux's state to the whole torment thing that doesn't let him fight, it's all Hoyd's fault.
Yeah, he
also,
got
the
a
people
Dawn
chasing
Shard.
him are after Hoyd, actually.
Yeah.
Well, the Dawn Shard, presumably, right?
Yeah. So they are after Dawn Shard, but also they can get to Hoyd through the Dawn Shard.
Yeah.
And Nomad is not very happy at being the intermediary here. So he finally gets Hoyd to apologize to him for it. And then decides that, you know what, he's actually going to help out those people because he has a bit more Cosmere knowledge and like combat knowledge, even if he can't apply it, than they do. So he gets back into their meeting room and reveals that he can speak their language and says, "Yep, let me help you out."
It's so funny. He's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm speaking the language now. What's up?" That's so good.
That's where this preview ends.
Dawn Shard stuff, Sigil stuff, Scadrians, Far Future, Threnodites. I can tell how Brandon was like, this is a gift to myself because this is like the Cosmere story that he would write where he could just drop Cosmere references left and right as much as he wants. And I love it.
Just immediately.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is so exciting about this story is that it really reminds me of kind of earlier years in the fandom where the Cosmere was a little less certain. Yeah. And Brandon was always kind of like, it wasn't as clear as it is now that he was going to really, really do some big crossovers in the foreseeable future. And he would always be like, well, maybe I'll write what he called a complex.
Oh, yeah. I looked into this. He mentioned it once in our 2010 17 Shard interview, and it's never been mentioned again. There's no reference of it being called a complex book ever again, but we're here.
But I feel like we use that word a lot, and he was always like, maybe I'll write it, maybe I'll post it on my website if there's interest. I don't know if it will ever.
we have a tag, but it's only been mentioned once.
yeah, but this is it. Like this is the Conflux book, the very first one that we really get. I think where things you really can't deny that the connections are what make this story kind of work a little bit.
Oh yeah, like how Brandon was saying some things like in some earlier streams that's like, they're all intro Cosmere books, and then he like kind of walks it back a bit, and I know Jess had violent reactions every time because she does not think this book is intro Cosmere at all. And I would agree, this should not be your first Cosmere book. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be.
I think part of the issue is I, for one, am very much a proponent of you can read a lot of the Cosmere in whatever order you want. Like, I think if you read Stormlight before, all four of them before you have read Warbreaker, I don't think you're ruining your experience because I think in a lot of cases where these sort of Cosmere crossovers come up, it's like the characters are unfamiliar with what's going on. So if you don't know what's going on, you can kind of be unfamiliar with them and then figure it out later.
Yep.
I think the problem with this book is that there's so much actual mystery that no one knows what's going on, that if you're adding that mystery to also all this Cosmere stuff, that the Cosmere people know what's going on, like, I think it's just overwhelmingly confusing if you don't have any context. So I agree. I think the more you can know about the Cosmere going in, the more you can just focus on the actual mysteries happening on this planet.
Yeah, especially since those preview chapters are not really interested in explaining like the Cosmere-wide terms for you. Like it's not really saying what's awakening or who are Scadrians or who is Cal, or it's like it's kind of it feels like it's just kind of assumes that you are familiar with a lot of those terms.
I feel like it's kind of reliant that you know who Sigil is. Like, I can see why Brandon could maybe consider this maybe more... Like, it's definitely far future, and part of the mystery is, like, what happened to this guy, right? But I wonder how necessary it is that you know who Sigzil is and Sigzil was, right?
Yeah.
Jess thinks that you should just read some. You need to read some Stormlight before reading this.
I think it would be a good introduction to the Cosmere in general, because afterwards you have to think, what were all these terms? Who are these people that I met? Yeah, I need to read the rest now.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that if it catches your interest, this book, then you'll definitely like the rest of the Cosmere as well.
But all those things are books, and you can just read all of them. That's true. That is true.
There's just so much stuff though where people are gonna be like, what it. He's going, oh, I'd be just a little bit airsick. Everyone's just gonna be like, what? Like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like there are a lot of nods to Bridge 4 stuff specifically, where I'm just like, okay.
And clearly that's why he put it's Stormlight adjacent in the title. I understand why. Because there is a lot of the Stormlight stuff. I wonder how much Stormlight you need to read before you can read this, because Brandon intends that you read this before Stormlight 5, even though there's some stuff that we're going to learn about in Stormlight 5.
I would personally argue that you don't have to know who Sigzil is before reading this book, because Nomad does feel this character archetype of someone who was like idealistic in his youth, but now is bitter and jaded.
That's a classic.
Yeah, you can I think it's easy to figure out that this is a former Bridge 4 member, but I think you don't have to necessarily figure out which one of them it is to enjoy this story.
But you wouldn't know who Bridge 4 is if you hadn't read Stormlight, you know?
Yeah, but still, I think... Okay, so it's a bit hard for me to explain, because the archetype of a character who has this idealistic past, but then something terrible happened, and now he wanders the earth being an asshole until something reawakens that old idealism in him. It is it's a character archetype.
Oh, I agree with that. I just meant Bridge 4. I don't think people are going to be like, oh, this is clearly Rasarr, and if they haven't read Rasarr, I think it'll just be like, who is this guy? Unless they have read a few things about Stormlight and have an idea that things like oaths are important or whatever.
Brandon had been talking for a long time about we need to have a talk after Stormlight 5 about the future of the Cosmere.
That's true.
And honestly, I think he crossed that line back in Rhythm of War.
Well, we don't know if the talk is going to be about increased Cosmere crossovers. That's what I always thought it would be.
Yeah, but most likely. I think that line of crossovers was crossed in Rhythm of War. But this is just a whole new level of what I expected of the Cosmere post Stormlight 5, and we're getting it before.
I definitely am surprised that we're getting a book like this. And Brandon was saying, it's something the Cosmere needs. And I'm like, late Cosmere is going to be so awesome, because it's just going to be like this all the time. And I'm going to love it. Oh, so good.
I think Brandon was concerned about whether he even wanted to read the Six of the Dust 2 reading, because it revealed some late Cosmere stuff, and this is just now. Okay, you can have all of it. You can have all of it now. I don't
basically
care. That's what he's doing.
I think there is maybe a very particular type of reader who could enjoy starting their Cosmere journey with Sunlit Man, but I think they would need to be warned ahead of if you're the sort of person who wants a book that's going to dunk you in the deep end and throw a gajillion terms at you.
Well, the Malazan fans.
I was going to say that, Malazan fans, you start here, but everyone else wants to know what's happening.
Even those people should be aware that, this book will not answer all of your questions, and if you're okay with that, go for it and have fun and have a great time figuring out what all of those other things are as you continue, but I think that's going to be a pretty small percentage of most first-time readers.
Like they do explain connections, it's letting you talk with the language, like the things that are necessary for the events to happen work, but you definitely get references of this is a person that Nomad recognized, or just those callbacks back to Stormlight, right? That you wouldn't quite get, but maybe Brandon's just thinking how necessary is it? It could be enjoyable by itself, but I don't know. If you don't like random references to things that are in other books, you would don't start with this one. That's for sure.
And I guess I think whether or not it's readable being your first Cosmere book, I don't think it reads best as your first Cosmere book. I think if you come back and you read it again later, you will get more out of it, just because.
And
you'll be oh, I see these nods.
Yeah, I think you could get most of it just reading, like, maybe through Words of Radiance or Oathbringer. Like, I feel like you'd mostly be fine.
Like, Way of Kings. Like, who Sigil is, you've got his characterization, you've got, like, the path that they're going down from Kaladin, you've got the Coid connection, that he's his apprentice, or was at some point. And that gives you a lot to work with, at the very least.
Yeah, like, I don't think you need to know much about Threnody or Scadrial necessarily, right? Like, there's other places, like, if you just know it's a connected universe, right? That's like, okay, there's other places. Like, I don't think that's a big deal, but I think the Stormlight stuff, it might be good.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say Words of Radiance just because it's like, then you get the Spren changing shape, right? This Shardblade thing. But, because, we kind of take that for granted that the Spren on the Shardblades, but it's like, that was kind of a big reveal in Words of Radiance.
It was, yeah. But although I think it definitely wasn't the big, like, people kind of knew, but it was still really cool, I would say.
Getting a Still Spirit is really cool. But
that is cool.
Yeah. But, yeah. So it's interesting. And then there's deep Cosmere stuff too, like Dawn Shards and getting stuff that we've known about in Words of Brandon for a long time that we only started to get in books since, like, Secret History, about, like, Hoid not being able to hurt people. And things like that. And
the fact that Hoid had a Dawn Shard, that's
very new. Yeah, that's like 2020 after Dawn Shard came out, where Brandon's like, let me just tell you about stuff. And like, oh yeah, Hoid had a Dawn Shard. That was in Dragonsteel Prime. Right? Remember, guys? Like, I don't even remember, and I've read that book.
It's really funny because a friend of mine is reading through Rhythm of War and, like, the whole Cosmere, but hasn't gotten to Dawn Shard because it isn't nearly as available.
Right.
Like, especially because he does audiobooks and
that audiobook's taken forever.
And so he has no idea. And I was like, I know you have questions. I can't answer them. I need you to read the Dawn Shard first.
Yeah, Dawn Shards are big deals. And Brandon said that it's this is the Dawn Shard that Hoid held, that Sigil had it. It makes sense given the fact that they both can't hurt people, right?
Yeah. I have lots of things to say about that, but maybe we'll save it for
the WoB episode. Yeah. There's lots to talk about there.
Do we want to talk about sort of like Sigil as a character?
Let's talk about Sigil as a character. That sounds good. Yeah. That seems like the next natural thing to do.
Yeah, I find him fascinating. Admittedly, this is a character archetype that I really enjoy reading about. This sort of like person who has been under such extreme circumstances that they're really pushed just into survival mode and sort of needs to learn how to be a person again. This is something I really like about, like, Szeth in particular. He also has vibes of this.
Sorry, David's reaction is hilarious.
Don't make me hate Sigil.
David's not a Szeth fan, in case you didn't know.
I did not know that.
I think it's fascinating to see, like, you compare, because this isn't the first time that Sigil has been in horrifying, dismal survival situations. Like, he was in Bridge 4. That
he
was
calls Win on it too, right? Like, he's just basically like, oh, you were just playing out a flute and talking with my boss about it, and you did nothing to save us. It's like, damn, harsh.
It really
fair though.
Yeah, it really put a spotlight on the issues in their relationship of, you know, was Hoid kind of hoping Sigil was gonna die in the bridge runs because it would have been more convenient, and that was an awful thing for him to have done, because he didn't go save him, didn't go help him out and things like that. It's just it's crunchy. It's great. I love it.
Every once in a while we get this reminder that Hoid is an absolute asshole. And I think chapter 10 of Sunlit Man is really like a big, you know,
of that,
Sigil waving the banner that just says this guy is an asshole.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just because, like, I feel like we get these instances where Hoid goes, oh, I would let Rasarr burn.
Yeah, exactly.
If it you know, served my goals. But his interests so far have so often been aligned with our characters that we haven't really seen a break point where they diverge. And this is the first time where you're like, oh, like Wit seems to have made a decision that would benefited him and not somebody else. And it's kind of like
the save Calamity, like, but clearly it screwed over Sigil massively.
Yeah.
Getting a Dawn Shard, I guess.
How I think about Hoid.
Yeah.
You know.
I I also find it really interesting, and admittedly, I don't know a lot of the WoBs about this. I know there are WoBs about this. But
don't worry, they're in our document. We'll get to them.
I'm sure you guys
next
have them.
episode.
Like, so from my perspective, as someone who's just coming into this with just these chapters in mind, like trying to figure out what's up with the Night Brigade and what sort of actual threat they represent is sort of, because the impression I was getting was that Sigzil's running and not letting them catch him was in a way to kind of protect Hoid, that they were going to use the Dawn Shard to track Hoid, and that was going to be bad. And maybe that's because they're going to do something catastrophic with, if they find Hoid. But the fact that he's so resentful of what Hoid has done for him, and yet he's still, living this awful survival life in a way that's protecting Hoid from bad things. Like, that's such an, there's so many emotions in that relationship.
Oh, so good.
And I'll talk about this more when we get to that WoB next episode. But Brandon's reference to the Black Company made so many things click for me regarding the Night Brigade. It's going to be hard to do without spoilers because it's all late series stuff, but
yeah,
I
have theories.
Okay.
Just based on that one reference.
I will say, like, my personal reading on like the Sigzil Hoid situation is that Sigzil is running less to protect Hoid and more because if the Night Brigade catches Sigzil, then whatever process they use to track Hoid through him is not going to leave him alive. Because, Sigzil has basically one motivation at this point, and it is to survive. He even like considers in the very first chapter of the book if he should just let himself burn, and then he realized that he still has that survival instinct.
Yeah.
And he gets slightly more like shadows of other motivations over the book, like he still wants to know how things work partially. He still kind of empathizes with those people. He still wants to learn about their culture in as much as he's trying to crush this need to learn things that Sigzil had. But I still think like his main motivation is survival, and I don't think he would survive whatever the Night Brigade wants to do to him.
Yeah.
I find myself with like almost 4 theories of why Sigzil is living this way. And one is like he doesn't want bad things to happen to him, and he thinks bad things would happen if the Night Brigade caught him. 2 would be like he doesn't want bad things to happen to Hoid, which is very interesting because they don't get along very well. 3 is like he thinks the Night Brigade would make Hoid into a nuke or something and it would kill a bunch of people in the Cosmere. Like there's like a wider, greater good threat that you have to protect Hoid even though he sucks, because they're going to do a super bad thing if they get a hold of him. And then 4, I think, is, speaking of speculating way outside my depth, I think maybe this Dawn Shard thing would have something to do with it in terms of like the fact that it has you can't hurt people, and also you seem to be more difficult to hurt. I wonder if that's giving him an overinflated sense of like, I need to keep living because there seems to be a preservation of life sort of vibe.
Interesting.
I feel like you get this sense inside Nomad's head that he's tired. There's a part of him that does kind of just want it to be over, but he can't stop. There's like almost something internal driving him to keep going and keep expending the energy and keep running, even though he kind of just wants to stop. Would it really be so bad if he stopped?
I kind of like that because it sort of fits well with what Brandon seems to like to do, which is to give somebody like a personal motivation to do something and kind of like a magical like side motivation where we see something where like Dalinar and the Thrill, where it can still be his choice, but also there's just a little bit of supernatural stuff going on there that reinforces that choice.
I'd like to read just the quote and the mention of the Dawn Shard, because I think this is getting right to this here. So, I don't have time for you, Wit, Nomad said. The Night Brigade is out there hunting me because of what you did to me. You may have saved the Cosmere. I absolutely did not save the Cosmere, Nomad snapped, finding a pebble in his pocket. Mud washed away. He threw it through Wit's head. The illusion rippled, then restored. I might have saved you, though. Same difference. It's not, Nomad said. It's really not. He stepped closer to Wit's projection. If they catch me, they'll be able to connect the Dawn Shard to you, and then they'll be on your tail. So that's kind of the mention. And we do have the word of Brandon that it is that Sigzil got this Dawn Shard that Hoid got. Although there are some questions on the Dawn Shard timeline that we'll get into the next episode, because what? So I think the Dawn Shard's related, right? Like this is
clearly.
Brandon, what didn't the Amiens always say, like in back at Oathbringer, like, oh no, we have to kill you. We can't give you any information because forces in the Cosmere, if they learn this, they could destroy the entire Cosmere. And I would assume that's about the Dawn Shards, right? And maybe the Night Brigade is one of these forces, right? That would destroy the Cosmere.
It doesn't surprise me.
There's more there that we can talk about in the episode. The original name for the Night Brigade is...
Oh, yes. Yes.
Was intended to be called Dusk Brigade. Or Dusk Brigade.
Not Dust? Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
But yeah, we'll get to that.
Hilarious to me. So yeah, that's so interesting. But I love how Hoid's like, oh, saving me is saving the Cosmere. It's like, wow, Hoid, you are so self-absorbed. Wow.
The humblest of men.
Very humble. We all knew Hoid was very humble.
We all knew that.
Oh, yeah. It is so cool, though, because I do think it's one of the most, like, frank Hoid conversations that we do get. And that doesn't come up super often. Like, he's always playing with this edge of, like, oh, am I being serious? Like, you can't really pin me down. And he does eventually come to the point where he apologizes.
Yep.
And I did love the little like callback to Yolen and his little like, you know, when I was there was a boy that looked up at the stars
and Sigzil's just like not having it. It's like, that was me. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll listen.
Done.
But it was so cool too. Like it was so cool that even though Sigzil hates him, he's like, well, I have to listen. He's talking about Yolen.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like Hoid actually showing some actual emotion about himself, which I'm sure Sigzil never gets from him ever.
And so interesting that Hoid doesn't remember, at least claims just to not remember much of his childhood and like his very early life.
I feel it's just a matter of him being really, really old.
Yeah.
And we also know that immortality comes with memory problems because of like brain storage capacity or whatever.
Probably just didn't know how to do whatever breath and memory storage thing, right? That he presumably would know how to do now, right?
That's right. Maybe he figured that out later, because I was thinking, like, didn't you put it in your breath? Like, do you just not pull it out?
Well, but, I mean, it probably took like 1,000 years before he even got there, right? I'd imagine. I don't know.
Yeah, the entire Hoid-Sigzil relationship makes me really excited for maybe getting more Hoid apprentice stories eventually.
Yes.
Because I'm really interested to see how those dynamics worked out. Like, because not everyone will be like Sigzil in that regard. Like,
apparently there's 3 Hoid apprentices. We'll also delve into that in the love episode next week.
This did a good job
of put another pin in that.
Yeah, for me, it did a good job, though, of kind of validating like the Sigzil-Hoid connection in Stormlight 2, because it almost felt like a drop thread to me, where I was like, why did we even make him Hoid's apprentice if Hoid and he don't do anything at any point so far? And now we've got this whole thing where, clearly they do intersect in a meaningful way again.
Yeah, there was the implication that Sigzil got this Dawn Shard, and like this event happens in Stormlight 5, which is insane. Like, what the hell? But... so Brandon was like saying, oh, it's like a teaser for Stormlight 5. I mean you to read this before Stormlight 5. I'm like,
I feel
okay.
Teased.
I do feel teased. Well, I mean, we all feel teased because we have to wait till October 2023 to read it. So
hopefully,
Well, hopefully there will be more than a month between Sunlit Man and Stormlight 5, because if it comes out in 2023, I do not think Stormlight 5 is coming out in 2023. There's no way.
I hope so. I hope it isn't, because that year's way too crazy already.
Yeah.
Here we are begging for a release delay, and fans of Rasarr Martin are like crying.
Well, I mean,
release delay of all things.
Brandon did say the writing these stories didn't set Stormlight 5 back. It was the Kickstarter that did, and all the Kickstarter and the streams and stuff, which like that makes sense. But I Alyx, you're totally right. I love the old grizzled veteran. It's just like
it's great.
It's like the old cop who's like, I'm too old for this. Like, but to like the nth degree, and I love it, and just I have to remember to be like a good person, and but yet he's still like enjoyable when he's kind of being a jerk. Like, I'll just put my boots on the table. What are you gonna do about it? I'm like, oh, you're hilarious.
It helps that
reminds me
he's
of
just
Croker from the Black Company a bit. Like even
I
at like
haven't
40
read
something, he's just like the old Grizzled Bear, and he's like, oh.
You're too well read, Veronica. You need to just keep rereading Cosmere stuff. I don't like this.
I think one other little thing that I did love, though, in terms of characterization that I didn't catch until I read it again this morning, was that the guy he saves with the gap tooth, he's totally thinking of Hover from Bridge 4.
Yeah.
And I'm like, like, it's just so good that it just made me smile to think about that, where he sees someone that looks like one of his friends and he still can't quite just like leave him.
So speaking of like Sigzil's past life, you actually asked a question on stream, David, that was totally not answered in any way. But it's really connected because there's a line where Sigzil's like, I can't go back to Rasarr because that will be where I'll lead the Night Brigade to people who still loved Sigzil. And David, your question was basically, oh, well, like, how far future is this actually? If like people still like know and love
less elegant way.
Yeah. So, because you'd expect this is kind of far future Cosmere. Like, if Scadrians are on other places, that like already makes it sound Era 4, right? Like,
I just don't know. Like, I know that it seems like Brandon is heading more towards like a compressed modern era and wants to get to sci-fi potentially. But to me, I'm like, there's no way that like in a normal human lifespan, Rasarr went from spears to like jet engines to like spaceships. Like, to me, it just, I'm like, that's too fast, Brandon.
Well,
I almost like wonder if the Stormlight like whole story doesn't end with a bunch of characters we know becoming just permanent cognitive shadows.
Sure, yeah.
Like, not necessarily as heralds, but maybe just living in
all
the cognitive
heralds. They're all heralds. Every Bridge 4. Now you get tortured and praised. Great.
They're going to get the trampoline halls back, guys. They're going to get it.
This time, for real.
Yeah, so maybe he's like thinking, like, I can't bring the Night Brigade back to my ghost buddies.
Yeah.
I was gonna, it could also just be like, you know, the descendants of his
Yeah.
You know, maybe he was on Rasarr more recently than the Stormlight books, and
true.
Hey, Paladin's great-great-grandchildren are there and living peacefully, and I don't want to lead the Night Brigade to them because Paladin fought so hard to make Rasarr not suck
The funny
anymore.
thing about that is assuming Paladin would have children in the first
hypothetical.
You gotta wait to Era 4 for Paladin to actually have kids.
Maybe Adolin and Shallan's children.
Oh,
That's probably
Adolin and Shallan probably have kids. We'll see.
They'll definitely have
it could be
kids.
something like that. It's hard to say.
I had also thought that, like, it's possible there are Spren that he was close to. There are
that's totally true. Yeah.
And Spren are no longer as invulnerable as perhaps they might once have.
That's true. That's true. Good point. And probably even less the further we go on. There's going to be more anti-investiture, right?
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of immortals, when I was trying to figure out who Nomad was, because I was not involved in all of the rampant speculation about who.
Right.
Because I just tuned out of all of it. When I opened the book, I was like, okay, I think this could be Sigzil because they mentioned his skin is dark. But I also thought maybe it was Axes. And maybe what was this whole torment thing was a curse of kind thing.
The curse of kind. Oh yeah.
Like, he can put tattoos on his skin. Like, he could probably like make his skin dark. Who knows? Maybe it's Axes. That was
you know what would have been a great title for one of the secret projects that'd be a big spoiler. It's just Curse of Kind. I'd be I'd freak out. That would have been so good.
And the thing is that we know exactly what that is. Well, it's a reference to.
Okay, we know what it is.
I mean. Like, we know the term.
Yes.
Everybody else would be like, "What in the world is this?" We'd be like, "Oh my god, the Curse of Kind."
Yeah. Speaking of loved ones, so there's. Do we think Calvin's dead? Because there's been a lot of conversation whether is Kaladin still alive in this late Cosmere, or is this saying definitely dead? So maybe we should read this. So he saw a light to his left, further along the rim of the city. Drawn to it like he was a weary traveler, and it a welcome cookfire, he started walking. That was a figure, wasn't it? Holding something that glowed in his fingers. A sphere. wearing a uniform, facing away from Nomad, standing and looking out through the darkness. Storms. It couldn't be. It couldn't. Ignoring Auxiliary's second prompting for an explanation, he walked further, haunted by what he might find, worried that he was going mad, yet desperate to know. Could it? Cal? He asked in the storm. And then it turns out it's like, it's definitely not Kaladin. And then
what a disappointing surprise. He's just like, this is my best friend. And
I feel like Kaladin, the fandom would have gone crazy.
So yeah, what do you think? Is Kaladin dead? Is he still alive? What do you think this passage means? Because some people are like, oh, Kaladin's still alive, and other people are like, no, Kaladin's definitely dead. So it's just really funny.
Yeah, I want him to be dead. I want him to be dead.
Damn.
Like, that would...
You heard it here. Clip this. I want him to be dead. Clip it.
Haters one and all.
Clip it. Marvin is a Kaladin hater. Wants him dead. Send those dislikes to @Paleo on Discord.
I also think we are very far in the future, and our main cast of Rasarr is no more. And I really hope that includes Kaladin too. Here, I'll just say it. I hope Kaladin's dead. You know why? Because Kaladin really hates that he always survives. And if
you don't want him tortured on Braze for like thousands
of
years?
Of tortured immortal. No, don't freaking do that to Kaladin. Let him rest.
Yep.
I think this is a moment of like, you know, you have seen a friend you know is no longer alive and could not possibly be here. And I think that's why he has the whole, like, am I going mad thing.
David?
Yeah, that's what I think.
I'm going to go against the grain here and say that I don't hope Kaladin's dead. But
controversy. Do you want Kaladin dead or not?
I know, right? I will revise like that statement a little bit, though, and go, I think that Kaladin quite possibly could be dead, but I don't think it necessarily is like some tragedy occurred and Kaladin is dead.
Yeah.
I think it's
no.
It's been 150 years and Kaladin has had a long and happy life and is now dead. You know?
I hope it's longer than 150 years in the future. Like
I'm hoping it's longer than 60 years at this point, Eric.
Hopefully is my vibe.
I mean, Nomad's been on so many places, like, so I don't know. I think I would hope it's like 1,000 years in the future or something.
And I could imagine that Sigil doesn't even necessarily know what happened to Cal, because it depends on the timeline what happens, like when he took up the Dawn Shot and how quickly he has to go on the run.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just like he doesn't even know what happened to Cal. Assumes he's dead because.
Yeah, maybe he had to skip away really quickly or something.
Yeah.
Dude, what?
That would make sense.
What if, what if Sigil gets the Dawn Shard and like there's the Night Brigade in Stormlight 5? That would be insane. It's like, well, I guess I gotta leave.
I guess I could see him, whatever happening with him, happen before the Contest of Champions too, and he might not even know 100% what occurs with that. He's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, I had to go.
I got it, guys. The sailors on the Infinite Sea. Nice.
I do like this vibe of like Sigil had to leave while Kaladin was still alive, and so he doesn't know for sure, but he knows it's been a really, really long time.
Yeah. And he couldn't go back.
There's always like that off chance that Kaladin somehow became an immortal, but he's pretty sure now. That I like that reading of this scene. That makes a lot of sense.
I like that.
That feels neat.
Stormlight 5 has so much to do. Like, good luck with that, Brandon.
Oh my god, yes.
I kind of can't believe it. Like, we'll see how it all works out.
Maybe that will be the 500,000 word Stormlight book that we always want. A nice Givoran 500,000. Yeah.
The Book of Endless Pages.
The Book of Endless Pages.
Give up on the palindrome, Brandon, and go back to the meme.
I mean,
speaking of Stormlight things.
Speaking of dead people.
I don't know where you guys are leading this, so lead us in.
Our dead friend.
Oh yeah, we gotta talk about
Auxiliary.
Yep, we gotta talk about that. There was a WoB on the stream where someone asked, "Is he a win or is Auxiliary a Windspren?" And Brandon raffoed it like.
I think that's a question you should be asking.
Is it though?
Yes, I'm glad he raffoed that because I think it's way up in the air.
Is it are we talking about a win spren or are we talking about an honor spren?
Oh, sorry. Honor spren. Sorry, I meant honor spren. Sorry.
Yeah, I was like, well, he's a very smart honor or win spren then. But...
okay, shut up. I meant honor spren. But I mean, clearly there's references to like Sigzil flying, right, and being comfortable in the air, and so I don't know.
I have a theory that it's not actually like auxiliary is not actually his honor spren.
Oh, okay.
That he had as a Windrunner. Because for one, the names of honor spren are like not at all descriptive like this.
That's true.
And
That's true.
Second, the whole references to Knight and Squire.
What is going on with that? That threw me off the first time I read it. Throws me off here as well. Like, it's very bizarre.
I think we're supposed to be wondering, is this Sigzil's honor spren? And I think there's a good chance that it could be either way. I feel like auxiliary.
I guess I just assumed, right? It's Sigzil honor spren, right?
See, I thought auxiliary sounds like an ink spren name because they often have adjectives like blended or ivory. And auxiliary kind of talks sort of weird. Like, is this a weird talking ink spren? And if so, what happened to his honor spren?
That makes sense with the whole skipping thing, right? And how Brandon
okay.
About the surge of transformation. Transportation.
So
sorry.
But I think that could be the Dawn Shard and the Dawn Shard effect
probably
that allows
the Dawn
it to
Shard,
skip.
But I mean, that's also a possibility.
I have a pretty wild thought because surge of transportation as well, and we know spren that look a little bit like ink spren, but maybe are not directly ink spren, namely the Oathgate spren.
Sigzil bonded to Oathgate spren.
Somehow got his hand on that. So
on an Oathgate spren? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
They could have weird names.
On the name front, it could also be that maybe Sigzil just, like, assuming it was his original spren, he just didn't want to refer to them as like by their proper name anymore because they killed him, and like he didn't want to be reminded of his past, so he just picked a really descriptive name because it's an auxiliary to him. Could also be something like that.
Maybe.
He's not Sigzil. He's Nomad. So
that's what I was gonna say. Is like he's got a different alias, and we know that. I believe Brandon said he'll come out of this with another different name via WoBs.
He did say that.
Playing with names here a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if auxiliary is not this being's original name.
By the way, I looked. The Sigzil's honor spren doesn't even have a name in Rhythm of War, so thanks a lot. It's just not named. So
instead of unnamed mothers, we've got unnamed spren now.
I mean, there's a lot of radiance, David. Yeah. So
that's true.
So what's up with? Sorry, Ala, go ahead.
Yeah, my favorite theory about what Oaks is that they are actually a cognitive shadow of a person.
Okay, yeah, all right. I mean, it is referenced as night, right? You know,
I've seen it brought up a few times that like maybe it's because Oaks also has like abilities that other spren. I mean, Stormfather kind of has like connection manipulation abilities, but we've never really seen like Ivory, for example, has never taught Yasna a new language or anything like that, or like ate the investiture. So maybe this is like a set of powers one gets from bonding a human cognitive shadow. Or maybe this is just a spren that got like bent completely out of shape by being in contact with a Dawn Shard.
Yeah, because like there's reference that like Sigzil can like essentially use any investiture, and I feel like that would be much more a Dawn Shardy thing. But like there was this line in there that like auxiliary had to facilitate. I think that was the line. So presumably it needs both. The Dawn Shard holder terminology there. Oh god. But I know. They're supposed to be called. Yeah, I know. That's why I had the facial expression. And maybe the spren and maybe working those together, they can do these weird things. But I don't know. But a human cognitive shadow would explain why auxiliary refers to themselves as the knight and Sigzil as the squire. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, but like the theory about like the working with the Dawn Shard and the Spren together also explains like the Sleepless's comment about Risen and how she could never have Spren and all that. So
yep,
also a possibility.
Yep,
whatever's going on, it's weird.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
And apparently Auxiliary's dead.
Maybe on the Knight and Squire thing, it's if you roll with the theory that it is his original honor spren, maybe they always had a little bit of a weird relationship like that was a really old honor spren who like he had a lot of Knights Radiant in the past, and like I don't know, was an accomplished warrior in their or knight in their own society as well, and so he just always sort of had this relationship with his knights.
That would be crazy.
I'm going to teach you. So
sure, okay.
That reminds me of like the very little bit we see of Skybreaker high spren relationships, where it seems like they are subordinate to a spren.
That's
so
true.
It would be interesting to see some spren have some non-traditional relationship with
that's true.
type of Radiant.
That would be cool. And Brandon's just putting it here just to really screw with us. Yeah. Here is just like, yeah, sure, we're just doing that. Like, okay.
There's also whatever that one reference is to the fact that Sigzil's oaths ended.
Yeah.
Whatever that. I'm like, does that mean, first of all, what the heck? That could mean so many different things. But, if a Knight Radiant's oaths end, does that break the Nahel bond and kill their spren? And that is what's happened here is like, if Auxiliary is his honor spren, did somehow they come to the end of their oaths, then a hell bond broke and he bonded the dead spren, and because of their lingering relationship they can still talk.
But even more, remember, the reason why they become Deadeyes is because Biotomishram. There's Biotomishram stuff in Stormlight 5, so maybe they fix the issue with Biotomishram. Sigzil then breaks the oaths, and so it's like the old school Deadeye, not the Deadeye that we see currently. That's really plausible.
I think we have like 10% of this picture, and we have just enough to be able to say we don't know, like, wow, there's a whole 90% of what's happening here that we just can't even put any pins in.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder, because we were earlier talking about like how the Dawn Shard he's holding is kind of like about preserving life. So maybe it's like Auxiliary died, but the link to the Dawn Shard it's keeping got like magical life support.
Oh, yikes.
Oh, that's so sad.
Oof. Yeah.
I mean, even in like a normal circumstance, Maya is a dead spren who is sort of able to talk. And as far as we know, Adolin doesn't have any extra special investiture stuff other than just his own connection with her.
He's just such a good person.
A wonderful heart.
Yeah,
Who
that's
knows
right.
What happens when you throw a Dawn Shard into that blender?
let's give the Dawn Shard to Adolin. Let's see what happens.
And that's probably true too. This is probably a pretty huge corner case in terms of magic. Like I doubt this specific whatever has happened many times before, if ever before. So it's Sigzil's probably on some untrod ground here with whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't even think of the Biotomishram aspect with the with the Deadeyes, because there was a lot of discussion on Discord about like, but how's Ox dead? He doesn't act like a Deadeye at all. I'm like, Biotomishram, easy, nice.
This is why
all life's questions.
You come to Shardcast, hear us talk about Biotomishram and Secret Project
I'm on the
4.
show, so it doesn't take much for me to talk about Biotomishram. And don't worry, in the prologue, Stormlight 5 prologue, Biotomishram.
All the Biotomishram stuff.
Oh, I can't wait. We're recording that next weekend. That'll be fun. Shardcast listeners, we're just so excited about everything that we just can't contain what we want to talk about. There's just so much that's exciting. So, please continue, David.
Okay, so I think that this is not the correct fruitful path to be going down at this point, like having seen everybody like think about this. But when I was reading this for the very first time, and you see the early Ox, you see the descriptions, my first thought was, oh, this is Chris and Naz's metal tools that were advertised in the broadsheet. We found it. Whatever this is that.
And it's Auxiliary, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm like, he got one.
I actually don't hate this idea that the talking metal tools on Scadrial were like somebody's dead spren that like a dead Shardblade that just wasn't in Shardblade form.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but how would they get that over in Era 2 if they can't transfer Stormlight? Like, that's the question. But I mean, Hoyd's there, I guess. So,
There's World Hoppers.
Yeah. Hoyd's there. He
might have figured the connection thing out years ago, and she's like, I'm just doing it. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, Wax and Wayne is supposed to take place like after Stormlight 5, so maybe they figure it out in SA5.
Yeah.
But actually, speaking of tools...
One more thing to do.
Yeah. We'll add it to the list. Yes, all?
Yeah. Speaking of metal tools, like before we move on from Oaks, something that caught my attention and also made me kind of wonder if this is actually a spren, is the fact that Oaks makes more like complex devices than what we see of Shadow. For example, first thing that caught my eye, a chain, which is generally comprised of several dozen moving parts. Or later a bolt cutter, which also requires like two blades and a spring. So it seems like Ox is capable of doing more with its metallic form than what we currently have Shard Blades doing.
Is that
like being in many parts, or
is that more, or just that Sigzil's very creative and has been doing this a long time?
I mean, we know we can't even create bowstrings at this point in Stormlight.
okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair.
It seems to be limited to one continuous object right now. Like, they can't make a bow and an arrow.
Oh, I guess then a chain is kind of weird, isn't it, then? Okay, that's good
we
point.
do have soulcasters, though, that we don't know what part of the soulcaster is the spren and isn't.
Okay, see you guys in a half hour when we talk about soulcaster.
Yeah. But this was also something I was wondering about. Like, if it is a spren, if a regular Knight Radiant would also be capable of doing these things, because it's also weird that it's not Sigzil consuming the investiture and doing the magic, it's Orcs doing it. Like, he has to wield Orcs as a shield so that Orcs can absorb the investiture, for instance, or like he only gives the investiture to Orcs. So if that's something that like a fifth oath radiant maybe would be capable of doing, or whatever. In general, it reminded me a lot of presences in Cradle, actually, the way they interplayed their Sigzil and Orcs.
But would Sigzil have even been a 5th level radiant? Like, we got 10 days in Stormlight 5. We got to really speed up.
But
feels like this feels like we just finished reading like the middle of Mistborn 1, and Kelsier had his little "here's how allomancy works" talk with Finn, and then somebody handed us an Era 2 memory coin and said, "Figure this out."
An Era 3 memory coin, maybe. So it's like, oh, okay, I have no idea what's going on.
If I could say, like, did we avoid 6 of the Deaths 2 reading spoilers here or not?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I wanted to bring that up too.
I will say I'll leave it vague then and say that I think we've been given indications that in Rhythm of War, when Kaladin talks to Syl, there's a moment where they kind of are speaking in Syl's like, I think that we can do more than we've explored in this bond in the past, just because they were so pressed and so they didn't have a lot of time to really just. They were just trying to make do with what they had instead of pushing for greater things. And so I do think there's more to be found in just a normal bond than we have seen thus far. But this could be another step beyond that even. I don't know.
I think that's a common feature with Brandon's magic system. I mean, you look at the Mistborn magic system examples of there is a technological development of magic on these worlds that we're tracking. So I think that is totally plausible.
I mean, I do think we are going to get Rasarr airships like that Navani's developing, and they'll figure out all the deets on how to deal with it, right?
They just need to build one more. They already have one, then they'll have airships.
Oh, that's true. We're almost there. That's a good point. Solid point.
Get that plural. Yep.
Well, let's get on to more big topics on just how crazy this setting is on this planet, which is unnamed. We only got a name for Secret Project 1's planet, not the Secret Project 3 ones, or this one.
Sunnyville.
Sunville? That's what we're going
Sunnyville.
with? Sunnyville. Okay. It's so nice and pleasant. It's such a nice, pleasant place. But it was so funny because just like the day before this sample chapter came out, Brandon was unintentionally Blake having his bad book idea of like a planet rotating around another planet. He's like, that'd never work. And Jess and I had already read Sunlit Man, right? And so Jess is like, is he talking about Sunlit Man? And lo and behold, the next day, Brandon's in his thing is just like, oh yeah, we were talking about it. It's like, Brandon.
Like, the thing is, like, Dan, Wells, like, he did say he knew about the Kickstarter for, since Brandon told us that. So Dan presumably knew that this was an important.
Yeah,
that's true.
He took it completely seriously.
That's true. They're the pros.
Like, he knew what Brandon was talking about, but just treated it as another silly story idea.
Yeah.
I think that I don't remember that episode very well, but I think the idea Brandon had was kind of wilder. Like, it wasn't just a planet that spins very fast. It was actually a planet that has on it another planet that keeps spinning over
it. And like something was pushing it. Yeah. It was
person is pushing it.
Yeah.
A giant. And I'm like, I'm glad that that would have been too windy.
The longer we talk about this, I'm getting like the Little Prince vibes. Like the planet is just so small. You can
he was like, oh, it's a smaller planet, but it's like rotating around like a much bigger planet. And meanwhile, all the astrophysicists are sobbing in the corner.
It's funny because we just we finished Nature of Science last week in school, and the last thing we saw had to do with geostationary orbits for the satellites and that, and the more the explanation went on, the more I realized just how insane Tress is. Because it was already insane enough, but when I realized the actual science that had to go into that, my God, Brandon, why?
Why?
And actually, the real secret about these projects is that they are impossible astrophysically. Like, that's
Brandon said at the bottom, it's going to take some work to make the physics actually function. Great. I'm thrilled.
It's magic.
Functioning. Let's talk about how insane the planet is, because this planet is either very small or turns very slowly, because I have just checked. Do you know what's the speed of the sunlight traveling along the Earth?
Isn't like
it takes 8 minutes at the equator,
right?
106,070 kilometers per hour, or in freedom units, that's going to be about 1,000 miles an hour.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. So Americans appreciate
it. Just for the record, Mach 1, which is, I should have really Googled that earlier.
That's okay. It's all edited. It'll all be perfect and you'll sound so smart.
That's Mach 1, which is speed of sound, is 1,240 kilometers per hour. I don't know how much that is in miles. Yeah, also around 1,000 miles per hour. So either those ships are traveling at Mach 1, or this planet is turning very slowly.
Well, Sigzil does say that he suspects that it's both small and that it's rotating slow.
Yeah,
because I'm just gonna go with I guess Aiden Alcium wanted it this way.
He'll remember our plight eventually.
He will. Will he remember the astrophysicist's plight eventually, though? Like, probably not.
I doubt it.
Eventually.
I was gonna say, I do always love the idea of poor Cosmere physicists trying to understand the universe, and they're just trying to do Newton style stuff, and they're like, it doesn't work. Why doesn't this work? And it's because the shards are up there going, I'm holding this planet in place. Don't worry.
I mean, would they even discover general relativity when they're just looking at these observations and just like, this is just too crazy for my equation to work?
They will discover dark investiture, which accounts for the majority of the forces.
Oh, great. Perfect. Dark investiture. And that'll be the shroud, obviously, from Yumi.
Yeah, obviously.
It's all anti-investiture, too. It's dark anti-investiture.
I will say, you guys joke, but Final Fantasy's latest expansion actually involved creating a dark counterpoint to the magic that makes up most of the universe.
And then we have all the dark shards.
100% straight.
There's gonna be 16 dark shards, and then people use the dawn shards to make 16 dark shards, and that's really your future of the Cosmere. And that's the Night Brigade. No, the Night Brigades are the dark shards.
Nice. Analysium's opposition.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The real deep cats.
I should do a solo video on Analysium's opposition because like 3/4 of the WoBs on that are solely me. And me just
really chasing that.
I was. And I should just go into how crazy that was. So
the dusk shots, yeah.
All right, we should go back off topic. Back to the episode we're recording.
No rails. There. You know what? There's no rails on this planet. They're floating, so we don't need rails here. Yeah. That's science.
We've left the rails back on like Painter's planet.
Yeah, but we're talking about the
Heon lines.
They don't. The Heon lines don't have rails. I guess the rails are the Heon lines.
They do have trains, so they have rails.
Yeah, they have trains between them.
Yeah,
trying to get us back on the rail.
What is a rail, really? No, okay, we're not. What are rails?
So, when I was reading this, I actually thought that maybe this planet could be Monody in the Threnodite system because you have Threnodites, and Monody is the closest to the sun in that system.
Oh yeah,
and
okay. I'll put that map on screen for everyone who remembers that. Yeah, but it can't be the planet LG, right? Because LG's character. So you know.
But it probably isn't because Brandon said on stream that they haven't fully decided on the name yet, and Monody is named.
So it's definitely not that one. Yeah, probably not.
It's also definitely possible that Brandon forgot that they had a name for that planet.
Well, no, but
100% a thing.
But could it be though? Because the sun itself is really invested, so it can't be Threnity's sun, right?
We don't know that. The Trinity sun isn't invested. Like,
we don't know how
invested enough to burn away the things. Like, I don't know about that.
Well, you just put it further away. Like, it doesn't have to be right up close. To the
sun.
Like, the Goldilocks zone would move out.
Okay.
Could this be in the Taldane system? Speaking of things I don't know anything about, like it doesn't work. Okay, cool.
Just one.
Tell me that doesn't work.
System. They're being like circled by suns on both sides.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
Monity's the closest. Oh, the weird planet in the Threnodite system is Purity, that weird red gas giant. That it doesn't fit the naming scheme. Oh, okay.
I will point out that Monody doesn't have rings, which the Sunlit Man planet has.
Yeah.
Maybe this was drawn before I guess it would need a moon now.
Yeah.
It would need something to turn into rings.
I feel like the rings kind of disprove the idea that the planet is small. I'm not like an astrophysicist, just for the record, or anything,
and none of us are.
That. But I'm fairly confident I have read before that, like, for example, Earth is too small to support like a ring system. It requires a certain size or mass of the planet for a ring system to form.
Yeah.
What if the planet's really dense?
Yeah. And Sixel does talk about it, like how it has to be small, because he talks about the rings that he changes perspective on them and uses from that it's pretty small, I think. Like he says, because he sees the backside of the rings and they turned out, it has to be pretty small.
More just Brandon being bad at physics, or me being bad at physics.
Well, I feel like he's having Sigzil just like, wow, this is kind of weird, isn't it? It's like, it is weird, Brandon. Like, at least Brandon knows enough of the physics to be like, yeah, this is kind of weird, and maybe it kind of makes sense. And eventually it's just going to be Analysium made the planet this way. So
I kind of just want him to do that, though, because sometimes I don't like when I just want him to be able to like do what he wants to do with his imagination and not have us, and he can be like, you know what, like shards do this, or like maybe there's something else going on.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
He does say that he's gonna need to make some shenanigans with Cosmere aspects that he can play with to make it work.
What if the rings are not natural rings, but instead are like orbital debris? Because we know that Scadrians have been on the
and you know what, the word detritus as debris is mentioned several times in the story.
No.
I'm ending the episode now.
I'm the one recording this, David.
You never read when the theories have gone too far and it just shuts off.
It's just funny. It's just funny how like I don't know if the word detritus has appeared in the entire Cosmere, and then we just get multiple instances of detritus in this.
I want to check that now.
Okay.
I know, right?
Brandon's Word of the Week calendar just had detritus at one point.
Yeah. Odium's there, detritus is one. Yeah, you know.
I will say, for something that could maybe make sense, also not an astrophysicist, but we know that Brandon has talked about planets with variable gravity, like
sure.
Or not Scadrial. Rasarr has like lower gravity than some other. And if the planet is smaller, maybe it has less gravity, and that's why it was easier to develop flight tech. How do you develop technology if you have to constantly move?
Sorry, by variable gravity, I thought you were meaning that the planet itself on different locations had different
between planets. No, not that the gravity on a planet is changing.
That would be Brandon. Free idea. There you go. Have fun.
I did that in Avengers anyway, and it didn't make any sense.
There's 3 mentions of detritus in the Cosmere so far.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, all right. Well, I stand corrected. Thanks. But
you kind of brought up because like you putting aside my idea that it's orbital debris from Scadrians, you kind of brought up the idea of like how they did technology. And yeah, that is like good question. How, because they have metal, like Six Liver points out, like how they do have metal here.
Yeah.
They're getting it from somewhere.
Yeah, and he's like, how are they getting it? Yeah.
Flight tech. So clearly they must have already arrived on this planet when it was like when they were already like technologically advanced. Because I don't know if you could survive long enough to.
We know people are from off planet here already. They didn't have to develop. Okay.
Yeah, but there's a conversation where Sigil and Ox are like, did they come to this planet before the Shard's death? Like, with, like, Ambition's death? And, like, the Threnodites don't have that, right? So have fun with that, guys.
That's why I asked for this. I submitted the question for the stream, whether it was, something about, like, when it was in relation to Ambition's death, if you wanted to confirm that. But Adam only read the part that whether they migrated, not when.
So the important part.
Damn it, Adam.
So basically, every question you've asked, Adam has crucially cut off. Does that happen on the other one too?
Not the Cyberverse question.
Okay.
He answered fully.
Okay, great.
Well, the Sunlit Man definitely has to happen after death of Ambition, because obviously it happens after Stormlight.
Oh
yeah.
And there's also like the question of if they. So for the question of if they migrated before or after Ambition's death, if they are still this like linguistically and like name and culturally similar to Threnodites, maybe Brandon will prove me wrong and say like, oh, their culture was so isolated that it just stayed completely the same. But I personally find it implausible that they had been separated for this long. I think what's more likely, because Sigil and Aux are acting like Threnodites or on other planets would also leave shades. So either they are wrong about that, or this is a continuity error that Brandon will remove in a later draft, or the fact that the sun is so heavily invested, like chokes out the shades so they cannot form.
Yeah, because they're shadows and it's light. It makes sense. I mean, to be fair, that actually is possible. Yeah, what rights do you need to make? I don't even know. I mean, honestly, we have no idea how shades work really at all. And if anything, all the other cognitive shadows just make it seem so weird what shades are. Like, what? So stay tuned to after, I guess, October 2023, where maybe we'll get Threnody stuff and we'll do a Threnody episode.
One of these days.
Else feel just like drunk on Cosmere speculation this stream. I feel like we've been just inundated with.
We haven't even talked about the Awakening reference. There's so many references that we haven't even gotten to yet. We're not even close.
Yeah, the timeline stuff alone is so confusing, like how it all works out. Because also they have legends about the Scadrians being there apparently. So when were the Scadrians there?
Oh God!
Yeah, they had to have arrived here after Scadrians.
I
think.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Probably.
Otherwise, either that or they like just lost a bunch of their history at some point for some reason. Because we know that Scadrians have been there before, and we don't know if they're still here. Because it could very well be that the twist of the book is that they open the Great Gate to the underground, and it's just a bunch of Scadrians going like, hi there.
And King Kong.
It's the Fallout Vault.
I have an idea. I can fix all the timeline stuff Easy. Are you ready?
Don't do time dilation.
Investiture time dilation from the sun.
I mean,
no. But like, seriously though, the time out of the system maybe could be going, at a different rate, and so these Threnodites have experienced less time, and so their culture wouldn't have as much to happen. That's really plausible, actually.
I mean, it actually is.
And you want everyone who wants to develop a timeline to hate their life.
Have fun, Joff. And like the Scandrians are going forward, right? Easy.
I hate that time dilation is a thing that exists in our universe for the sake of the timelines and stuff.
You need it for GPS.
Yeah, true.
The relativistic correction, Alyx. You need it.
Without Einstein.
And so let's just add investiture into it, and the sun is so invested. But like, there's not a shard here?
Yeah, no.
I mean, the sun's it's doing stuth.
Did Aiden Halcyon was just like, I'm just gonna make a shard level sun that's just like always doing this or something, like, okay, Aiden Halcyon, sure, buddy.
So
what is happening?
The ember magic has to come from somewhere as well.
That's true. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was my Aether shenanigans.
Oh yeah, let's get Aethers involved. That'll really clear things up.
Oh,
great.
Alex is just like, what is this
already?
But thematically, the system seems to fit into the Aether system because
the sun is the illumination Aether.
It could have something like that, and because they have to implant
transportation.
Yeah.
Transportation. Yeah, that's how they got there.
Yeah,
from Vanity. Easy.
You can only send others.
That's the thing. You can only send others.
Sending one, not the self teleport.
I haven't read Aether of Night. I'm just trolling you guys. I don't actually think it's investiture time dilation. Just to be clear.
I assumed that it had something to do with what was happening with the sun. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's some magic rocks on this planet that like absorb the sun investiture, and if you find the magic rock, you can stab it into somebody.
That's really plausible.
There's lichen on the rocks.
Oh my God, don't do it.
You are joking. You are joking, but I'm kind of wondering if maybe this planet was like the original nesting spot for autonomy, and then they decided for some reason that, you know what, this place just doesn't vibe with me, or maybe she realized like, oh, I did this wrong, and now everything is dying on all the time on this planet.
Maybe the sun is an avatar of autonomy already.
It was the shard that is in resonance. It could be an avatar.
Well, I mean, Brandon also said Punch is a shard.
Yeah. Okay.
So that Rob, I do remember that episode for you.
Wow, guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode of us just pressing the gas on all the Cosmere stuff, and Brandon just giving us all the fuel for like the craziest Cosmere speculation that you could imagine. Alyx is dying over here.
I'm just about at my limit. We're like about to tap out. My brain cannot take
a WoB episode, Alyx.
Maybe.
Yeah, we gotta do a WoB episode. You're our audience stand-in, Alyx.
Oh no, there's a WoB episode.
This is the approachable part of the episode, Alyx.
Maybe we should like slow down and just cut off the Cosmere part and focus just on the
maybe we should honestly, we're gonna get a lot of setting stuff later, right? We don't know. It's weird. The timeline is weird. Is there any other setting stuff that isn't like super mechanics?
No, I'm just wondering how, in all, like, with all the crazy theories like we've just put out here, what is the possibility of one of them actually being right? Because it's happened before where we just go crazy theorizing on Shardcast, and then that's actually how things turn out to be.
If we throw enough darts at the dartboard, one of them's gonna hit the bullseye, probably, maybe. So yeah, I mean, nailed it. It was all planned. We were all serious on all of these suggestions.
to throw something else into the timeline.
Oh, great.
Stuff.
Great.
I just remembered.
No.
Because they have brass mines, apparently.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Or
That's true.
something like that.
No.
So.
Oh, yeah. What
The
is
Florin?
There's the
They're
bracers.
Florins.
Yeah. So what's going on with the bracers and hackable bracers? So it's not just. Now we just need hackable guns, and then we'll be right into the silly, villainous things that you can just hack.
David,
I did not put together that the bracers are probably brass. That's really smart.
And David,
Yeah.
the worst part about Florin as a term is that it sounds a lot like a Scandinavian word or Germanic word that, like from Frozen. And Southern Scadrians probably named it, maybe.
Oh.
So
That's really cool. Huh.
Oh, wow,
I had this
yeah.
total jackpot that these Ember people were actually the Fire Mothers and Fire Fathers.
Don't your pops up, I'm out.
If only we'd aired our Southern Scadrian episode, which was going to happen in March, but, But it's recorded. We've had it recorded since last August. We're going to get there. We're going to post it sometime.
It's going to be outdated by the time we post it.
No, that's why I got to post it soon. Damn it.
I like, now that we're on this track, I'm wondering if you had like sufficient room to store enough heat, could you survive on the sunny part? If you just stored enough heat fast enough to not get burnt up by it, like, is that why these are there? Are they like?
But can you even store that fast?
Right? Would it fill up?
No.
What's the capacity of a?
So
reverse compounding.
No, Alex. I don't know if you know, but that is kind of an actual term, kind of.
No.
Yeah, it is.
I did not know.
It kind of is. It kind of. Well, it's and we don't need to get into it right now. That doesn't matter.
Okay, let's
continuing.
I just kind of I'm wondering, like, did they get those where did they get them from? Because, like, did they loot some Scadrian stash left after the Scadrians, or did they buy them from out space? Like, does the Cinder King have contacts on other planets to supply him with Scadrian tech?
Sure.
Because, like, we know they have guns.
Yeah.
Just for the record, we know they have guns, which means they are theoretically capable of producing bullets. We still don't know where they get metal from.
Yeah.
For those bullets and for everything else. We know that Scadrians were here, so it's possible that they scavenge Scadrian tech or like scrape molten metal off the surface whenever they pass by something that melted. This one is like super interesting, like the mechanics of it. And it's very metal, aside from the Scadrian stuff. And you know what this super reminds me of? I need to go on this tangent.
Okay, sure, why not? Press the gas.
One of my other obsessions.
Okay.
Non-Brandon stuff. Warhammer 40k.
Oh, yes.
Yes, this is.
So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Warhammer or how many of the readers. So Warhammer is kind of known for being this extremely brutal setting with a lot of what they call death worlds, which is a place where humanity has to fight to survive, which, interestingly, all 3 of those planets we got in secret projects, or 4 of them are
they're not nice for humans. Yeah, they're really not.
But this planet is extremely 40k because, the tangent continues.
Okay.
There is this faction in 40k called the Space Marines, and they usually have there's many different groups of them called chapters, and each chapter is based in a specific planet or a fleet of ships. So when they want to go and recruit people, because this is a brutal setting and they are super soldiers, so they need the best of the best, they often organize some sort of competition for the locals to participate in, and the losers, depending on how severe any given chapter is, the losers either die or are sent away, while the winners get transformed into Space Marines. So this whole section of Sigil in the arena reminded me incredibly strongly of like Space Marine recruitment.
Yeah,
because we have like this life or death situation on a death world, where the winner gets to become the super powerful person who also has a personality change, because we see that those embers like change your personality. So this is probably the most Warhammer 40k thing that Brandon has ever written.
Did someone ask about that in the stream? I feel like maybe I've just heard you talk about it so much that I'm imagining that it was asked on the stream, Rasarr, but
I do not recall.
Well, I don't know if Brandon is into 40k or how much he knows of the lore of 40k, but...
And actually, moving away from the 40k, I am very fascinated by everything that's happening there, because we know those people. Okay, so we know there's this Cinder King who is the ruler of this city.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's a second society, the Beacon, who seem to be refugees who have some kind of past with the Cinder King.
Yeah.
And then there are the other columns, because one of the greater good asks what if Sigzil is from a different column, which seems to be their name for those groups of ships.
So Veronica just sobbing, just the idea of column. Column.
About the column thing, it is capitalized, and I know Brandon is terrible as capitalization.
Oh yeah, don't trust any capitalization in this.
Of course, the first thing this made me think of was a group called the Columns. I forgot exactly how it's called, but the Columns of something in the third Air Awakened series, A Trial of Sorcerers. So I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Sorry, Rasarr, continue.
It's the super mysterious group. And that's it instantly caught my mind with that. I didn't even consider that Brandon is bad at capitalizing.
Oh, yeah. Don't trust him at all.
I was like, the capitalization in the text version of this is just all over the place.
As is the italics.
So we know there's several different groups or columns of ships moving around the planet.
Yeah.
So the questions I have is how many of them does the Cinder King control? Does every one of those columns except Beacon has a Cinder King of its own or a Cinder Queen?
Sure.
Or for example, why does the Cinder King has such an elaborate way of executing people? Because the only thing you really need to do to execute someone on this planet, if you don't want to do it yourself, is land a ship, kick someone out, take off. They cannot walk faster than the sun. But instead they are going through this elaborate ritual of putting metal spikes in the ground and chaining them to the ground, and they have this competition where the losers are chained to the ground. So this is a question, for example, is this how they get the embers from? Are embers remains of people who were killed by the sun? And maybe the spikes are how they find them again after traveling across the planet.
Sure, yeah.
I know. I am spitballing here.
There's another spiking magic.
Another spiking magic. Yeah.
I'm curious, what actually happens to people when they're getting ember stabbed? Why does that make them loyal? Is there a mind control thing involved? Is this an emotions, you just sort of become angry? Is there a dependence thing where they need power and therefore will be there's all sorts of dynamics that could be, but we clearly see somebody from Beacon got embered and is now no longer wanting to be rescued.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Seems
I think go ahead. So.
It seems to have almost made her feral.
At least the way the Cinder King controls them seems to be through those bracers, or at least that's what Sigzil thinks. Because maybe they can absorb some of the heat and make them survive the procedure, something like that. It could be,
Interesting.
It definitely, to me, is reminiscent of hemalurgic spikes, being stabbed in the chest with something, producing some pretty drastic effects. Yeah. And so to me, that always is what do they do? What's going on with their spirit web? What are they modifying?
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Steel Inquisitors. Yeah. But the interesting thing was Steel Inquisitors were checked before being given spikes for loyalty. They were supposed to be loyal. But Ruin did not need the Steel Inquisitors to be loyal because he could just take control.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, there's that whole which vibe is this?
Sure, yeah.
And the Cinder King also seems to have some extra powers. Because he does try to do something to Sigzil that doesn't work out.
It doesn't work, yeah. Yeah. So there's something going on with him.
And also, just the fact that he seems to be more whole than the other Cinder people.
There is something, he's got I didn't know this until this read too, he's got kind of an aura thing going on too.
Oh yeah?
that I didn't, or at least that was my read of it. I couldn't quite decide how I wanted to interpret it, but
yeah, what's the quote?
Here, let me read it. I'll start from like the beginning right here.
Yeah, sure.
We're talking about his eyes. They simmered a deep red color as if lit from behind. The effect reminded Nomad of something from his past long ago, but this was less like the red eyes of a corrupted soul and more like something that was burning inside the man. His black jacket glowed as well, but only on the very edges with a similar red-orange color. Looked like he, let's see, where's the wall? Oh, his glow was mirrored on many of the buildings, the rims of the walls glowing as if by firelight. It gave the city a feel like it had just been aflame recently, and these were its ashes. So I wasn't sure if that was his presence or if the city itself is glowing in some way.
Huh. I love the drop of corrupted investiture there too. That's pretty cool. But
you know what this reminds me of? Suzebron, and like the way when he walks, like the light.
It's like a different sort of life aura, almost maybe. Like
I could see him potentially like powering the city in some way.
Oh, okay.
You know, sort of being responsible for.
Just reminds me of like an aesthetic of infusion in an MMO. It's like, ooh, I have the fancy aura and particle effects on me, and the Cinder King has got this fiery one. Ooh.
He's all in microtransactions.
Cool relic weapon.
he's into the microtransactions. I mean,
he's been swiping.
All of Brandon's descriptions, like, it is so metal and badass. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, I really like just the descriptions of the flames and how they kind of gutter at certain points or flare when when these Ember men seem to get kind of angry, or like I think when one of them gets knocked out, like the flame kind of goes out a little bit in their chest for a moment, you know. So I think it's just cool aesthetics like that where I'm like, I need all the fan art whenever anybody feels like they want to drop something. I am totally down to.
And we haven't really had like fire magic in the Cosmere, because like fire magic, I immediately start to think like elemental magic, and like Brandon's not doing that, but like this is clearly like evoking the cool parts of fire magic, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like that, without it being like I am controlling fire necessarily. So it's kind of neat.
I wonder what would happen if you were like to douse that ember in their chest. Like, do they have to wear hats or like ponchos whenever there's a rain out?
I don't know. When he spits
I don't
in
even know if
his
there
eye, it fizzles though.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
maybe like the Wicked Witch of the West, you just have to defeat them with a bucket of water.
but like their chest is all exposed, so I imagine it wouldn't stab that much. Like that would be such a colossal. Here's my weak point, stab it. It's like, no, it's probably fine.
And true, there is rain, so Rebecca and her crew could probably have just brought buckets if that was what they needed.
They probably tried that.
Yeah. This is a video game, and you have to reveal where the crit spot is on the enemies, actually.
Yep. Cool. I think the last thing, maybe we should have done this first, but we'll talk about it here, is just sort of the style of this narrative. It's definitely not Hoyd telling a story, but, you know, with one of Hoyd's apprentices. But this is very much the sort of action-packed, pressing the gas, and we're just going straight forward, and, like, not really much time to breathe. And it's like, whoa, what the hell's happening here? Like, the entire way.
Yeah, and like I really like how with all these secret projects, Brandon has been experimenting so much with different styles and different voices, and like it's fun as Cosmere readers because it also means that things aren't as predictable for us who really know Brandon that well, and so we've been able to predict some twists because we know Brandon so well. I think that this like experimentation will definitely make things very different when we get to read the full books for predictions and stuff. But also, like, as a writer, it's really interesting to see someone just trying so many different things and, like, putting them out, because that's not something you normally get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely, like, when I was reading this, I was like, oh, thank God that Brandon had time to write these, because I would just hate if he, like, as much as I like the Stormlight style, I would hate if he was like locked into that, and that was kind of all that he could write, and he's given like a little more freedom to do. Like, this is frantic compared to the pace of the Secret Project 1 chapter. You know, this is so much more action than everything else, and it's just so much fun to see how he plays with the pacing and the tone and the actual like voice of the whole thing.
Yeah, I also love how there's like this strong theme across every aspect of the book of movement. Because like you have Sigil who is running from something, and practically since the moment he tears out the spikes that bind him to the ground, he's constantly in motion, whether under his own power or by being dragged somewhere. Everything is constantly moving. The ships are constantly moving. People are like, even the game in the arena is about running away from the Ember people. It's not like about fighting them. The group of people who rescue him are then running away. The first big action set piece we have is a chase scene. So like everything in this book is about motion.
Like Stormlight, when you breathe in Stormlight, you just got to keep moving.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if we're going to see a moment in the work somewhere where we get a moment of stillness and that it feels impactful because everything has been so movement based up till this point. That would be, I think, could be a really powerful emotional moment.
Yeah.
If I were to guess, this would probably happen if or when they get underground, where they no longer have to run away from the sun.
Certainly the sun is like, we gotta go right now or else we're all dead. So
I will say, like, just a thought on sort of the secret projects as a whole, now that we're at the last one. When talking about like authors exploring really different kinds of story voices, I do think this has been just a really cool experiment for Brandon, because I think one of the things I like about Brandon's works as a whole is we constantly see him using a work to improve and then seeing that improvement pay off in later works. And I think this is going to be sort of like a really cool repertoire building thing that's going to pay dividends in those big series that we're looking forward to later on in the future.
Yeah, because this
I will say, if you like stories or books where authors play with sort of genre style a lot, the Cloud Atlas book is really cool.
You've always been talking about that.
I love that, because it's like 6 different genres in one book across a bunch of different eras, and it does some similar stuff to this. So
I mean, I could definitely on my shelf for forever, and I'm always just I enjoyed the movie as weird as it was, and I've just always been like, I gotta read this book.
I can imagine Brandon taking elements of these secret projects and like having, because like Stormlight plot lines, every character's arc, if they're not interacting with other characters, is somewhat self-contained, right? And you could really have, you could really draw from some of these experiences to shake up a big Stormlight book. Although you probably couldn't do this one because sort of the frantic pace would be really slowed down with so many viewpoints in a Stormlight book. So you probably couldn't do this. But you could definitely do some different things, and getting experience with that just makes the whole Cosmere more vibrant, and so I love it. You love to see it, I think.
And it's gonna make, I think especially Secret Project 1 and 3 are going to make Dragonsteel better when it comes out.
Much.
To me, I'm like, even if it doesn't happen to be your cup of tea, like Brandon is working on his craft to make the origin story of the Cosmere awesome. So
I mean, it has to be cool, right? Like, it has to be.
There are so many ridiculous expectations for that book.
Yeah. I like it. I'm not the biggest like action reader. Like in Stormlight, I'm like, oh, Galdan's fighting again. Like, okay, all right. I wonder what's gonna happen. Like, I bet he win. Like, it's fine. This was more interesting to me just because having Sigil struggle with his torment, like, he tries a thing and then his torment's like, oh, I'm not going to let you do that thing again. Like that's an interesting interplay. And it just helps that Brandon's just like, I'll just put all the Cosmere references. I'm like, I'm interested in all these mysteries. Gimme. And just trying to figure out what's going on. So this is the sort of thing where I like sort of the constant action, even though Brandon really likes his magical combat and things in combat. So that isn't necessarily my favorite.
It is like a different sort of action than we've seen too,
which
is. Helps. Like, we've not seen hoverbike fight scenes before.
That's true. That does help.
It is fresh.
Yeah.
That helps a lot as opposed to another Windrunner fight scene, you know.
And that is something I noticed a lot on my reread of the sample chapters. There's a lot more like it just in general has a lot more modern references. Like there's talk about headlights and like going to the gym or whatever, and
with the barbell,
how the future Cosmere might read in general, like it would read a lot more like something from our world. Almost,
I mean,
with
look,
the magic added in.
I am so okay with magical space opera with Cosmere magics that we've seen before, with these sort of modern references. Like, give it to me, Brandon. Mistborn Era 4 is gonna be insane.
Oh, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. So I hope you guys like Cosmere references. I mean, if you're watching Shardcast, you probably like the Cosmere references generally because you're watching the show. But hopefully Brandon's general readership enjoys Cosmere references, because 20 years from now, I imagine most books are kind of be like this, where they're going to be a lot more than Rhythm of War. And so maybe Brandon's like, well, Rhythm of War isn't that bad compared with all the other stuff.
That is true. And I think that's also part of the reason like Brandon misjudges the way that like he's already crossed that line now, at least in my opinion. I know it's subjective, but I was like, Brandon, for Rhythm of War, like, sure, you can read it without reading anything else, but it's getting harder and harder by the second, and Rhythm of War honestly was a bit too much in my opinion. And I think that with that comparison, like, it's an anchoring bias. Because he has all this information of what he has planned, and so he's like, well, this isn't so bad, when actually it is.
This isn't so bad to the absolutely crazy stuff I'm going to do eventually. Also, tee I'm writing Sunlit Man and all these other crazy Cosmere works in 2020.
Exactly.
But
so,
I mean, I'm in. Like, I like Secret Project 1. I'm excited to read more of it. I liked Yumi a lot. Like, that was very fascinating. But Sunlit Man, just bringing off the gloves of like, let's reference any Cosmere thing possible. I'm like, okay, Brandon, I'm in. I'm so in.
I'm a teeny tiny bit upset it isn't the Silence Divine, because like that cover screamed Silence Divine to me.
No, it's another floating city with another burning thing. It's the other one.
Yeah.
I can see why you felt it was Silence Divine.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no.
It is interesting that like when he decided to write these things, they were basically things that he had never talked about in a super specific way. Like he wasn't moved to write Silence Divine or the Threnody novel or like one of the other
or Nightblood
that he might. Well, not the Threnody novel that we thought we were getting.
We'll talk about it next show. But it is funny that he's always wanted to write a story where, well, he always expected Hoid would go to another planet, figure out the magic system, and something like that. But he's like, Hoid's not the right person, but Sigil's going to be important for the Cosmere. So have Hoid's apprentice do that. And it is just such a fun premise for the Cosmere to have, where he's just like, going to a new world, figuring out the magic. Like, that's just so fun. Quintessential Brandon Sanderson that it's like, yeah, we have to have a novel like that. Like, obviously.
And we'll probably have multiple, because
I imagine
we have 2 more apprentices.
Maybe we will. We do. Maybe we'll still have the kites.
I think he said the kites are still like
still there.
He's like, this did not eat the kite story. Like, I think there's.
Yep.
Well, cool. Any other final thoughts? We'll
just, this is my favorite of the 4, and I cannot wait.
Yeah.
That is the correct opinion.
I like them all for very different reasons.
They're super different.
Tress is fascinating. And then we have Yumi, which, like, the world for that one is so interesting and so colorful. And oh my god, that book is going to be beautiful.
Whereas this is...
Like, if I could get any one of them, like the physical copy, because it is complicated.
Oh, right. Yeah. With Yumi.
I'd get Yumi. But
3 colors.
This one, it just gives us so much to talk about and speculate about. And just,
It was funny seeing Discord being like, ooh, there's so much Cosmere stuff in Secret Project 3, and Brandon keeps referencing Secret Project 4. I'm like, oh yeah, you all are so cute. You're so adorable. Well, cool. Let's get on to who's that Cosmere character?
This character is from Rasarr.
Menace. Tien.
Tom.
Braze.
Hoid in drag on a horse.
It's time for Who's That Cosmere Character? Caw. All right. Welcome to Who's That Cosmere Character, the game show where you send 5 clues in a character to WTCC at 17shard.com. I read each clue aloud, and after each clue, these guys have a chance to guess who's that Cosmere character. All right.
Woo-hoo.
So this one is from But the answer is not Cheery Cheery. This is from Cheery Cheery. Okay.
Wow, spoilers.
I know. It's not Cheery Cheery, but some people put the answer first, and I'm always like, oh, I gotta be really careful. But no, it's from Cheery Cheery. And clue 1, this character is usually well-dressed.
Adolin.
It's not Adolin.
Let's get it out of the way fast.
Yep.
Mraize.
It's not Mraize. Ooh. The
Gotta
classic.
have it out there.
You gotta.
Yasna?
It's not Yasna.
Sadius.
It's not Sadius.
I said Ellen.
It's not Ellen. Nice. Well, clue 2, all the people who were Rosharans were right, because this character was there the night Gavilar was killed. Although I guess that doesn't have to be Rosharans, but you know.
So everyone
Kalak?
Yeah.
It's not Kalak.
Does he...
Nail. If
Not
we're
Nail.
going down the list.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Aesodan.
It's not Aesodan.
Navani.
Not Navani.
I'm trying to think if there's like a cool, weird guess that I can come up with. But also just maybe a normal guess I'm running out of. I mean, Gavilar?
It's not Gavilar. Yeah, I mean, he was there. He was there.
He was there.
Clue 3, this character was on a ship. At some point.
Night
Not
Gavilar
at some
died,
point,
or
at
is
some
that
point. At
unrelated?
some point.
Oh.
At some point.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think on the same night, no. Alethkar's not landlocked, but Koladar doesn't have a port.
Is it Ivory?
It is Ivory!
Nice.
Oh, and in
Nice.
fact, it is Ivory, Yasna Spren, and Cheery Cheery says, but I hope you guessed Adolin because that was my trick. Well, that was the first guess, so...
I mean,
First guess.
Yeah.
You got us.
And the last 2 clues are this character was in a battle, and this character was in Shadesmar. Nice.
Really leading down that
Those are good
Adolin
clues.
path.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
that's really good.
It's just unfortunate that it's like well-dressed Adolin. It's like, okay, well, it's not him.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Character number 2. This one is from Dan the Mystic on the forums, but Ambrose Whitelock on Discord. Clue 1. This character is dead.
Gavilar.
It's not Gavilar.
Why would you
Jezrien.
have Gavilar on your mind?
It's not Jezrien.
Tien.
It's not Tien. Oh. Nice.
Vin.
It's not Vin.
Shallan's mom, maybe.
It's true. We are going to talk about that in 2 weeks. Don't you worry, everyone. No, it is not Shallan's mom. Clue 2. This character was infamous. Ooh.
Miles, the one from Alloy of Law.
Not Miles.
I'll follow you. Bloody Tan.
It's not Bloody Tan.
How about Sadie's the Sunmaker?
Ooh, it's not Sadie's the Sunmaker, but I
good
like
guess.
it. I like it.
I'm going to guess with Palm.
It's not Palm. She's the best. That was everyone, right?
I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
the Lord Ruler?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, is that your guess? I thought you already guessed, but I'm not sure.
No,
Oh,
no, I hadn't.
It is the Lord Ruler. Da, da, da!
Hey!
Da, da!
I did not expect that.
I
Yeah.
thought about guessing him.
Yeah.
And then thought, okay, maybe not.
I like clue 3 though. This character had children. Like, oh, thanks. Thanks a lot. And clue 4, this character wore a lot of jewelry. And clue 5, this character was a villain in the story. Cute.
Oh.
I like it.
Those are some good ones.
All right, so now we'll have our Who's That Cosmere character priority queue, which you can submit to if you're a Herald on Patreon. And so this one, which, by the way, if we've done this before, let me know. I don't know. This one is from Lyriel. And clue 1, this character is not a viewpoint character.
Now all I can think of are viewpoint characters.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'm trying to think
Well
about
done.
whether we already did that one right now. Because we have done a couple of from Lyriel.
We'll find out.
We will.
You know what? I'm gonna guess Nail again.
It's not Nail. think Gavilar still does technically qualify, even though with the Stormlight Prologue. Doesn't count
just
yet.
for me with it, Menace.
Ooh, it's not Menace, but I like it.
Oh wait, isn't
like,
he is a viewpoint character?
Yeah, he's like
Because-
the start of.
Oh,
the
yeah.
start of
Oh, okay,
So,
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah, I don't
keep,
like that then.
doing that too. Like I'm like, oh, Talon, and I'm like, no, he's a viewpoint character.
Yeah. His viewpoint was very introspective, David. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, everyone's favorite interlude. That was.
I mean, I
fire,
do
fire,
really like
fire.
that interlude, to be
Oh
honest.
yeah,
I think
that,
it's haunting.
That is legit one of my favorite interludes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
cool, but there's not a lot of information for a Herald POV. It's just
Yeah.
fire.
Well, I mean, it's definitely like teasing later things, right?
Mm-hmm.
We barely knew what the heralds were in Birds of Radiance, David.
No, I just always want more, Eric. I'm greedy at heart. Anyway, I'm trying to think. How
I can't
about?
believe... You go ahead.
I was gonna say Amaram, even though he should have had a viewpoint.
Oh, well,
He
no,
had
it's
a
not
viewpoint.
I know. I'm
he
also
did.
trying to think
Right.
of major
He had a
characters
viewpoint
who
at the end
don't
of
have
Oathbringer.
He did.
Yeah.
viewpoints.
Yeah, he did.
I think
And-
he doesn't have a view. I really ought to know, but I'm going to guess Maraise again.
It's not raised. And also, I think you mean at the end of Words of Radiance for Amram.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Because
He's
he
dead
was
at the end
very
of
dead
Oathbringer.
at the end of Oathbringer.
Oh yeah, freaking
Yeah.
tall now. That wasn't
Yeah,
on
yeah.
my viewpoint. Dang, there's so many sneaky viewpoints.
Yeah.
Sneaky viewpoints. Did you guess Veronica?
Uh,
You are
Oh,
muted again.
you're muted again.
So.
Do not know why this keeps happening. Anyway, Chanarak. Speaking
Whoa,
of
it's not
Herald
Chana.
viewpoints.
Whoa. We're just teasing them so much for the next 2 weeks. We are very excited to do the Stormlight Prologue. No. Yep. Like, for sure. Clue 2. This character is close with a main character.
What does that mean?
What does it mean to be close to a main character?
Hasina?
What about Lynn?
It's not Hasina. It's not Lynn.
We
Okay.
do have a Hasina
Sigzil?
viewpoint.
Oh yeah, we do. It's
Actually,
the
Oh, rip. Well, that's your guess
yeah,
already.
because I thought of the Lyran one. I had forgotten. I haven't
yeah,
seen the
too
viewpoints
bad.
too.
Rip.
I assume this was sent before secret projects were out, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
guess
that's true.
Sigzil.
Yeah, yes.
And we have a Sigzil viewpoint as well.
We do have a
Yeah,
Sigzil
yeah.
viewpoint.
Oh, well, it's not
Sorry.
Sigzil. Too bad. Bridge for
Yeah.
characters. Nope.
Yeah.
Pattern.
It's not pattern. This is
No
going great.
pattern viewpoint. That'll be cool someday.
I mean, we got a
Pattern
silver
viewpoint would be
viewpoint,
fun.
so
Yeah,
like
that's
we could
all.
easily get one.
not.
I'm going to guess Tindwill. I can't remember if you had a viewpoint from her.
We didn't. I
I
don't
don't
think.
It's
think
not
so,
Tyndall.
yeah.
No. All right. Next one. Clue 3. This character is big-bellied. It's
Sebarial?
not Sabarial.
That's a good guess.
This is a good guess.
What about? Oh no, I was gonna not Breeze. He had a viewpoint.
We've had
Mhm.
Breeze viewpoints. Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's the
many
hardest
viewpoints.
part. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
No, it's funny because I use that. This is a viewpoint character for the Chiri one, but
Yeah.
Oh,
this
Rasarr
one's
guessed
not.
before.
Is it-
And because I mean, it's so strange to have a viewpoint from a character like Chiri.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we did.
I love it.
Cheyenne?
It's not Cheyenne.
Oh, is it the guy whose name I can't remember, but he's the made for representative of the 5?
No, it's not the main form
Mhm.
representative of the 5.
Thank you.
That's sufficiently
Is it-
specific. So
Thank you.
is it? Okay. I always forget which Mar it is. Is it Laramar, the priest, Lightsong's priest?
Oh no, it's not Larmar. Sorry.
okay.
That's a good guess.
That's
Yeah, I remember
really
it's a
good
little.
guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
know.
He is pudgy.
Mhm.
He is pudgy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about having a big belly, but the Venteo?
It's not a Venteo.
He's trying
I
to lose
think he's
weight. I
gonna
remember that
lose.
much.
Yeah.
Hmm. This is a
How
tough
did
one.
you guess?
I did.
Okay.
I was the one who guessed Sebarial.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
That was a
right.
good one.
That was 1,000 years ago.
Mhm.
All right, clue 4. This character has worn a strange hat.
I give up.
Probably like
I
on a
have no
Wayne's
idea.
weird brand.
Parlin?
It's not Parlin.
Oh, that was the
I
hat.
was about to guess Parlin. Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. He
Yeah,
did
I
wear a
don't
hat.
know.
Yes.
That was his
Tonfa.
defining character feature. How can you even get 4 other
Yeah.
facts about him?
Hey, he also died. That's a
Tonfa.
second fact about him.
Is
We
it
have had
Tonfa?
Parlin before as a
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, well, it's not Parlin, so
Yeah.
Is it Tongfa?
it's not Tonkfa.
Dang.
Oh, that was also a good one. I was leaning
Close. Close to a main character.
Yeah.
I feel like the hat thing should be like. I bet the hat thing is gonna click whenever it comes. But
I have an idea, but
is it? Oh gosh, what's his name? The guy that Shalon drew from the mercenary caravan when they were traveling.
Oh,
Blood.
Nope, it's not him. Sorry.
Wow.
That was a funny hat, though. That was a good one. Yeah. How many funny hats does Brandon have in these books?
Yeah.
This character definitely has a funny hat.
I was really feeling the bluff, I guess.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. No, he's not him.
Not a viewpoint character. Close to
Oh, is it? Okay. Is it one? Is it Vizier Nora?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Vizier Nora.
Thinking about the Viziers as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but is Vizier Nora close to a main character?
Yeah.
Left.
Sort of. Yeah.
And I think I think that all those clues actually do work. I'm proud of that guess.
Decent. Yeah.
I didn't think I was gonna have one.
Who wears?
I know, that's so specific already.
Yeah, honestly, these are the hardest Who's That Cosmere character clues, because as soon as you hear it, you're like, I'm just lost forever. I have no idea.
Big bellied.
I have a guess.
Character too is like, this isn't someone super obscure, supposedly.
Yeah.
This article has reasonable length on the copper mine.
That's our metric.
Did you just give away their gender?
I think he said this character.
I said this character.
Oh, I thought his page is what you said.
Oh, I don't know. So. It's good 7K bytes, so not super obscure.
Okay.
Paleo, quick, scrape the copper mine for articles.
But I rounded. How much did I round? You'll never know. You'll never know.
Big bellied.
I know. It's like,
if you don't get it at clue 5, I will describe
I'm going to pass on this one because I could guess anyone and not get it.
Clue 5. This character does not wear a uniform.
Okay, I have a guess.
Oh, I know. Is it
the Admiral from White Sand?
Nope.
This is the quartermaster for the Cobalt Guard guy. He's the one who gives them their uniforms when they go in Words of Radiance. And they need to cut the patches off the shoulders. It's that guy.
No, it is not that guy.
What?
He wouldn't have a 7K byte article, would he?
He's got he's got a whole little scene though.
Yeah.
We can make Paleo. I can write 7K bytes about it.
Okay. Fair enough.
David's very good at it. No, it's not them.
Damn it. What's that guy's name?
Yeah.
Oh well.
No.
I give up.
Oh, wait. There's one of Dalinar's elites, and they're in the bar, and he's talking about how all the women are going to think his new hat is really sexy.
Oh, I know his name. You're right. It's him.
It's got to be him.
I feel like this is specific enough to give you the guess.
I think you should give a shot if
it's Bastion, right?
Bastion was one of them. It's either Bastion or the other.
It is Bastion! Yay!
He's got a weird hat.
He does have a weird hat. Yep. Nice.
Good clues.
That was a good
nice.
He is close to Dalinar.
He also was in the very first Chasm Feed hunt at the first one where you get
the hunt master.
Yeah,
he's the hunt master. Up with the Chol carrying the bait around, and he's like, "Oh, here comes the Chasm Feed."
Thanks for needing to make me bleep that, David. It's really great.
No. He's making me bleep that. I think I'm editing these.
All right, everyone. Well, we hope you enjoyed this interesting episode where we talked about Cosmere and stuff. We did a lot of that. So you can find us on 17char.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. There's lots of discussion on the secret projects, especially this one, both on our Discord and forums. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud. You can comment, and subscribe on YouTube. We have Instagram, where we share our art that we commission. That's pretty cool. And you can leave us a review on iTunes. And we'll see you next time for Words of Brandon about the secret Project Forest stuff, of which there are a lot. Yeah, so we're recording that right after this. And then, I promise, after then, we'll do the Stormlight 5 prologue. I know. But there's a lot of content here, guys. Come on. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.
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 Caw.